This is the third and fourth beams, filler beams going to the front bulkhead, and these are the ones that were rising. So it's a little confusing. I don't really have anything to measure off of in this hole. I know it's not straight front to back, and it's not straight side to side. So what I did, and I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, I came 10 inches up off the old existing floor in that corner, which I still had a piece of the existing floor, and the same in this corner, and I pulled a line. So that gave me something to reference. And then I had intended for the floor to be 1 inch higher than the old floor, just to make my beams a little stronger. And I went ahead and I'm going to let them come up 1.5 inches up here at the front. So I did the math. I measured down off the string, pulled side to side. That should give me a flat floor side to side, you know, straight with the boat hull. And I measured down, got a mark, and popped a saw line on the top of my beams, which when I take them out to glass them, I'll cut that line. And then what I found out, which is kind of surprising, is when I stack all these up and glue them, they don't come out straight. They have a hump in them. They really needed to be plain flat anyway. But anyway, so up front, take the camera off. Up front, the stringers were still doing their job. They were rotten on the inside. There's no wood left in there, but still straight and true, and they weren't broken. So what I've done is sanded them well, added 2 layers of cloth on each side, chop mat and a heavy woven roven, and I'm cutting the holes in the top, and I'm going to just fill them with rosin. I'm going to call it good. They're in much better shape than the ones back here structurally, probably because it's a short span and the hull has more of a V up there, so the hull itself has a little more strength. Alright, it's another day. I'm getting ready to grind or sand this side of this stringer and this side of this stringer. I'm adding a layer of chop mat and a woven roven to reinforce the existing stringers. I'm leaving the existing stringers. And I've got the issue with the subfloor. You see the crack between the pan, which is a fabricated pan which is set whole, and the original 1/2 inch floor. It doesn't really fit, and they compensated. You can see this crack really well. The original plywood floor, subfloor, never made it up with the prefab fiberglass pan, for lack of a better term. They tried to put little piles of rosin or something to make them stick together, and some of them took and some of them didn't even touch. So instead of going back with a plywood subfloor here, I'm going to go back with lumber, where I can adjust each individual strip to better fit the pan, give it more support. Okay, getting ready to put the floor back in the, I'm calling it the V-berth, but it's not really a V-berth. And you can see that the precast fiberglass bucket, or whatever you want to call this, never fit correctly with the plywood floor in the boat. It never did from day one. It's almost 1 inch up in the air up front. And as you go toward the back, it gets a little closer. But they used a lot of filler to make it a tight fit. So I'm going to not put plywood up here. For one thing, it's like almost a 20-inch span, and 1/2 inch plywood doesn't span 20 inches very well. I'm going to go with lumber side to side. I'm going to notch it over the stringers, and I'm going to have the top of the lumber touching the bottom of the pan. So when I put my new pan back in, it will be sitting on the lumber. I'm going to go 12-inch centers. The only hard part, well, it's all hard. Tricky part is that I got to remove that bottom piece of plywood from underneath the top piece of plywood, so I can get my timber to overlap. Okay, we're ready to put down the second little chunk of flooring up here in the cave. V-berth, or what I call the V-berth. This has been challenging for the old man because he can't get comfortable. Anyway, I put these stringers to support the floor, and the outside edge of them don't rest on anything, so I slid that little ripped 2x under them and bedded it on both sides. So if this comes out half as strong as that one, I'll be happy man. Okay, the second piece that we have removed is back installed, and it is the strongest thing in the whole wide world. Has absolutely no bounce, whereas before it had a huge bounce. Additionally, I ran a conduit. There's a sump pump and 2 depth finders that go down here under the bed. And when we got the boat, the wires were just laying under the mattress to the little access hatch. So I ran a conduit, so we can fish the wires through a conduit. And then in the future, if something needs to be changed or whatever, there would be access. So there's one more piece that goes down here. It's about 3 feet wide. It's got a lump on each side. And you start framing for it. Okay, another hour on my hands and knees, and the V-berth main cabin, whatever it's called, is back together, and the fit amazingly well considering I completely reframed that floor. But all these edges can be epoxied together with a couple of layers of tape, and that back edge is going to get screwed because it's only like an 1/8 inch thick, so there's no way I can bevel the edges. But man, this is good stuff. I almost feel like getting a hose and hosing this area out. Probably what it needs. There's so much dust. Okay, it's a big day, folks. The stringers are finished in the back cabin and the front cabin, and they are all fiberglassed down to the floor and to each other, and I even have fiberglass over the top of each one. I'm not sure why, but I did it. Happy days. We are ready to start laying some plywood, running some electrical, and running some plumbing under the floor.